Greetings, fellow thinkers and drinkers, and Motorhead fans. As we continue our run through the recorded catalogue, we now join them, year 2000, having, I think, finished off the last millennium, at least in my opinion, in very fine style. We're now in the 21st century. Now, something happened here through a lot of the 90s, and this was not just Motorhead. A lot of traditional hard rock heavy metal acts had gone so far out of mainstream favor. Even the so-called big names, your Iron Maidens, etc., etc., were selling much less product and playing much more modest venues. For example, in 94, 95, in order to tour the US, Motörhead was second on the bill. I think Morbid Metal Church, was it Metal Church? Opened, and the headliners were Black Sabbath. That's a pretty good night out in anybody's estimation, I would have thought. But even then, they were playing, say, embarrassingly modest venues and not even selling them out. Around the turn of the millennium, something seemed to change. Metal sort of became slightly more popular, not necessarily the classic acts. Like all things, it mutates, it evolves. Doesn't necessarily get any better, but it progresses, shall we say. Maybe it was just simply effective respect for their longevity that they'd hung around so long. Very consistent catalog thus far. But there is something about Motorhead that, again, they never had the commercial success or perhaps the critical acclaim of your Iron Maidens, your AC/DCs, even your Black Sabbaths, that sort of thing. But there is something that they are a cultural phenomenon in some ways. Their brand is instantly recognizable. And I've made the point before, they've sold several orders of magnitude more T-shirts than they ever sold product, record, CD, whatever you want. There's just something about the band. Maybe it's Lemmy himself. Who knows? But they are there. Their brand. They have this recognizability that goes way beyond what you call their core fan base, and even way beyond what you would call, say, the core rock metal audiences. Now, around the time that this next album, no point spoiling the surprise. We all know what it is. It's in the title, isn't it? I mean, yeah, okay. So we are here to talk about We Are Motörhead, released in 2000. Now, it just so happens at the time that I was working in the UK. And this even got a review in what you would call, not only the mainstream press at the time, but what you'd call the highbrow, broadsheet mainstream press. It was either the Times or the Daily Telegraph. I read this in. They actually reviewed this album. Yeah, and these publications, at least used to be, regarded as bastions of high quality, literate, unbiased, professional journalism. Not something they can legitimately claim anymore. But at the time, yeah, they certainly had more credibility. And it was very strange to read a review of Motorhead in one of these fair publications. Well, they were grudgingly complimentary about it, but patronizing. Whoever wrote it, I don't know. I can't imagine either of those papers, those periodicals, had a dedicated hard rock heavy metal journalist. So the poor fucker was maybe, next night he was going to be reviewing the Royal Ballet, something he felt much more comfortable with. But anyway, it was, at the time, interesting just to see them get that sort of recognition, even if it wasn't particularly flattering what was written. But somebody once said, probably Wilde, wasn't it? There's only one thing worse than being talked about. I mean, this resurgence, in some ways, I think did them some good. I might be wrong here. It's just a vague memory I have of metal becoming slightly more relevant again. But as I alluded to earlier, Motorhead in the mid-90s, in order to tour the US, they were second on a bill with Black Sabbath and playing very small venues on what should have been a very attractive bill. There were a couple of times in the 90s that they couldn't even get a promoter to book them a UK tour, their own country. From this point on, that would not happen again. I saw them, I must have been in 2000. I was there the evening they recorded the Bone Shaker DVD that came out. I'm sure that was recorded in 2000. Fairly sure. It's an awful long time ago. But from this point on, I should say, their star, it did rise to some extent. I mean, they would not be selling millions of records, and they would not be going, selling out football stadiums or anything like that. But the days of a promoter refusing to take a chance on booking a UK tour for Motorhead were behind them, and for the rest of their career, that would remain so. In the lean years, they did what many bands in a similar situation did. They came to Germany and to mainland Europe, and especially something like the German market, given its size, I think has saved the arse of many a mainstream metal act in the lean years. But Black Sabbath in the Tony Martin era, very popular here, could not get arrested in the US, and even in the UK, and another UK band. But no, mainland Europe's been very good to the the rock and metal world, or the bands of that era. So it was nice to see, at least. I mean, with some grudging respect, and they had enough groundswell of popularity that they could at least tour. And their record company was, happy to invest because they knew they would sell enough of their records, if nothing else, to get their money back. There are worse business situations to be in. But is this resurgence in any way directly related to the quality of this, their first release of the new millennium? Well, let us see, shall we? It opens up a song called See Me Burning, which is pure thrash. This is Motorhead really at their most metal. It's a fairly basic song structure. That's something I've done many times before. Think Civil War. Although it's probably even more basic than that. It's go back to Burner, can't we? On Bastard. Not musically the most sophisticated effort, but really strong stuff. This is not quite that good, but fine. We're off to a good start. No complaints. Slow Dance up next. This is a good, moody, menacing riff from Phil Campbell. Slows the tempo down a little bit, but this is still a really good song. It's a nice arrangement, which shows they are trying subtle things. They're not just repeating the same song over and over again. Yeah, this is impressive bit of songwriting, actually, and I like it. It's a good follow-up. Yeah, so far so good. Okay, Stay Out of Jail up next. Okay, foot to the floor again, but it's got a nice groove to it, I have to say. And again, it's not spectacular, however. So far, this is okay. I still prefer Snake by Love thus far. Okay, they follow that up with a cover of the Sex Pistols' God Save the Queen. Well, it's done in typical Motorhead style. How can you not like it? Well, I'm sure somebody can, but I rather do like it. I don't know what to say about it. Should they be recording covers at this point in their career? I mean, when they first started, Louis Louis was fun. I don't know. It seems, why do they do these things? Are they really? Do they really have this pressing artistic need to cover something like this? Or are they still missing 3 minutes to fill up the album? Well, anyway, it is what it is. They released it as a single, quite an amusing video, and they did play it live. It went down well. But yeah, okay, I'm slightly agnostic on this. They followed up with Out to Lunch, which is the first. It's a fast hard Motorhead rock and roll. It's the first appearance of something like this on this album. And to be honest with you, it's the best song so far. It's that structure. We've heard it before. It's you know, with another band, it would just be a fast metal song, but they've got that groove to it. They've got that Motorhead rock and roll. You have to give Lemmy his due. Sometimes, yeah, okay, they did play heavy stuff. They did play metal, but we all know what he meant. And this, yeah, okay, I really like this song. Really do. Strong stuff. Out to Lunch. Followed by Wake the Dead, which is more in a metal vein. It's fast, it's hard. And again, there are good things going on musically here. A little bit of spoken word vocals amongst the verses. It's a nice, ambitious arrangement for Motörhead. Something you don't often hear. There's the middle eighth scales things back a bit. It's rather quiet, rather reflective. And Lemmy takes a bass solo on it, which is not his usual distorted chords. It's actually rather nice. Good to listen to. Again, they're trying something here. Anybody that keeps saying they keep recording the same album, well, all right. I'm sure we'll address that point. Okay, then follows something which is a bit of an outlier in their catalogue, but remains one of my favorite Motörhead songs of all time. One More Fucking Time. It is an actual ballad. I mean, this is not a Journey ballad. This is not a Foreigner ballad. This is not a Bon Jovi ballad. This is a Motörhead ballad, but it is a ballad nonetheless. It has too many of the characteristics that define a ballad for it not to be called a ballad. And it's 6 minutes 47. This must be up there with one of the longest tracks they ever recorded. The first thing one notices is, how do you turn a phrase like "one more fucking time" into a romantic love song? Well, most people probably could not. But Lemmy does, and he does it, and he's very successful. It's actually really good lyrics. They sound a bit trite, maybe, first listen, but you read them through, listen to them. They're actually really well crafted. It's romantic. Well, it starts romantic, I would plead no contest if loving you's a crime. So go on and find me guilty. Just one more fucking time. You can't deny it. There's a romantic edge to that. Okay, towards the end of the song, his cynicism towards relationships does creep in, where the words do somewhat morph into, all those years together, they weren't worth a fucking dime. So go on and find me guilty. Just one more fucking time. But still, and it's at that slow ballad pace, but it's not soppy, it's not syrupy, it's not sickly. It's authentic. And seriously, you could slow dance to this song at your wedding. You really could. And gentlemen, any girl who would even consider doing that is axiomatically worth marrying. I'm just saying. I like this song. I really love this song. And really tasteful guitar solo from Phil Campbell. How do you follow that up? Difficult. But their effort is stage fright, crash and burn, which is more thrash. It's catchy, it's decent. It's not the strongest thing on offer here. Again, it's a decent effort, it's fine. We move on to Wearing Your Heart on Your Sleeve, which is similar vein as in the last track. Maybe dilutes it a bit, I don't know. Two very similar songs, one after the other. Maybe the sequencing on here could have been slightly better. If you take it out, if you sort of one of the things, if you listen to it in isolation, it comes across a bit better. But it's just a little similar to what preceded it. Again, there's a good bit of some interesting things going on musically here. But again, I have to say this is good rather than great. Now the album closes with the by now legendary title track, "We Are Motörhead." In terms of song constructions, we've heard this before. This harks back to the days of yore. We know what's going on here. So it's got it's nice and familiar. Foot to the floor. It's just something they do so damn well. And the lyrics, I think, are cool. It's been a long time since he wrote "We Are the Road Crew." So it seems only fair that eventually he wrote a song about the band themselves. It's a good end to the album. Production-wise, I forgot to say, didn't I? I normally do. Yeah, this was produced by the band, by Dwayne Barron, who had a co-producing credit on, was it the last one or the one before? I think it was Overnight Sensation, if my memory serves. Bob Kulick, and somebody by the name of Bruce Boulier, with whom I know nothing. When you read that, the initial reaction is, too many cooks. Well, yeah, I don't know. It's not a bad production. It's clear. There's good separation of instruments. It's well balanced. It's loud. It's not overly polished. It's a fine Motörhead production. Suits the music. My complaint is, in some ways, Bastards had a dry production, but not as dry as this. It's too dry. I like my humor dry. I like my sherry dry, but I don't like my album production this dry. Again, that's a subjective thing. Others may see it differently, but they're wrong. Actually, this charted well. I mean, we're talking in relative terms here. In several European markets, Germany being one of them, Switzerland, those sort of places. Don't think it charted at home for them, and I don't think any of their albums have ever charted in America either. Might be wrong. Nice for them to be, to see them getting some reward. Not selling millions, but keeping the wolf from the door, I suppose. This is another one for some reason, although it's one of their more recent efforts. I hadn't listened to it in its entirety for a long time. I seem to have some lingering memory that they kind of dropped the ball again on this one, or this just wasn't as spectacular as the others. I have to say that having listened to it for this purpose of this review, it's much better than I remembered it. And I'm happy to correct my opinion there. Yeah, is it as good as the preceding four? Well, possibly not. It's certainly not Bastards level good, or even, I would say, Overnight Sensation. Probably maybe up there with Sacrifice. What on here is good, is really good. They're talking about Out to Lunch, Wake the Dead, One More Fucking Time, and obviously the title track. It was a good start to the new millennium. It boded well for things to come. This is now, if perhaps not quite, but we're on a roll of 5 really strong albums now, which is something a record for them. We've been through this already, and if you've seen my other videos, you know my opinions, that they've periodically punctuated their career with less than stellar efforts. But now I'm prepared to say 5 in a row of really strong stuff. Anyway, this story, as we know, will continue, and we will be back. Until then, I thank you for your indulgence. I wish you well, and Maçhonquèrre.